I declined to buy my son a PC, and my entitled son worked for 6 months and saved up $18. So, I took it away as punishment, grounded him, and spent it on clearing my loans, bills, and my self-care to prepare him for his adult life. Now, he has abandoned me and claimed I stole his money and took his sister with him. Now, I'm regretting my actions. For context, I'm 44F with 2 kids, Alex 15M, and Ellie 12F, my ex-husband, and I split up 3 years ago. That's not really the focus here, but it's kind of important for context, because our parenting styles have always clashed, and that's starting to cause real issues now that the kids are older. Alex and Ellie split their time between me and their dad 50-50ths. My ex, Mark, owns a local HVAC business, makes decent money, and definitely leans into being the fun parent. I've always been the one handling the actual parenting. Ellie understands that she's organized, responsible, and emotionally mature for her age. Alex, not so much. He's not a bad kid, but he's got a short temper and tends to dodge responsibility when he messes up. The issue that blew up recently has been brewing for a while. Alex has been obsessed with getting a gaming PC. For almost a year, he's been bringing it up, asking for it for Christmas, then his birthday, then again last summer. I told him no. Every time. He already has a PlayStation 4 and I didn't see the need to blow thousands on something that's basically just going to distract him from school. He'd argue, "Mom, my PS4 is literally ancient. It's not even the Pro. I can't even run half the games my friends play." And I'd tell him, that's not a need. It's a want. When you're old enough to work, you can buy it yourself. Well, he called my bluff. Mark offered him a job doing light warehouse work and deliveries for the business on weekends and during school holidays. I wasn't thrilled, mostly because it meant more time with his dad and less oversight. But I didn't block it. I figured if he wanted the PC that badly and was willing to work for it, fine. Let him learn the value of money. So, he's been working pretty consistently for the last 6 months. He gets paid decently for his age and he's been really disciplined about saving. I'll give him that. But I also noticed the change in attitude. Every time we argued about screen time or schoolwork, I'd get, "I'm not even your responsibility anymore. I earn my own money." Or, "At Dad's, I don't have to deal with this crap." He started to act like he was 25 and owed nothing to anyone. There was one incident about 2 months ago when I told him he needed to be home by 9 p.m. on a school night. He rolled his eyes and said, "You can't tell me what to do when you don't even buy my stuff anymore." Like, what? You're still 15, mate. Anyway, fast forward to last week. Alex was out front kicking the football around with some neighborhood boys. I wasn't even home at the time. Ellie was inside and one of the neighbors came to get her because the ball had smashed the rear window of the car parked on the street. Turns out it belonged to a new neighbor, a single guy, maybe in his mid-30s. When I got home and saw the damage, I was mortified. The guy was calm, but clearly annoyed. I apologized and said we'd sort it out. I told him I'd take care of it. And here's where the issue really starts. When I told Alex the damage cost nearly $2,000, he said, "Damn, that sucks." I waited for him to connect the dots that it was his responsibility, but he didn't. He just said, "Let me know what the insurance says." I told him we weren't going through insurance. The damage was his fault, and I wasn't going to pay for it. He'd saved up nearly the exact amount over the last 6 months. I told him, "You broke it. You pay for it. That's what being grown up means, right?" He looked at me like I'd punched him. He started yelling that I had no right, that I stole his money, and that it wasn't fair. He said it was an accident and that I was ruining his life on purpose. I reminded him that in the real world, accidents still have consequences. I told him this was part of growing up, owning your mistakes. I even offered to let him keep $200 for himself and Chip and the rest. Didn't matter. He stormed upstairs, slammed the door, and called his dad. Not even 20 minutes later, Mark was in my driveway, barely out of the car before he started laying into me. He said, "You're unbelievable. You've seriously gone off the deep end. That money was his. He earned it. You really think stealing from your own kid is some kind of lesson in responsibility?" I tried to stay calm. I explained the situation exactly how it happened. The ball, the damage, the cost, and the principle behind why I was doing what I did. He wasn't having it. He said if the issue was money, I could have called him and he would have covered it through the business. Said that instead of helping our son, I just sabotaged him to prove a point. Then he told Alex to get in the car and they both left. That was 4 days ago. Alex hasn't responded to any of my messages. Ellie says he's still angry and thinks I ruined his life. Mark hasn't stopped texting me either, calling me bitter, manipulative, and emotionally abusive. I told him that was rich coming from someone who's only a parent when it's convenient, but whatever. The next morning, I woke up to 3 text messages from my sister saying, "What happened with Alex? He's posting vague stuff on Snapchat about his psychotic mother. Are you okay?" She's always been overly involved in everyone's business. So, my first reaction was to ignore her. But I did check Alex's Snapchat, and sure enough, he'd posted a black screen with a caption. Imagine working for 6 months and having your parents steal everything. Can't wait until I'm 18. That one stung. Not because of the drama, but because he genuinely believed it. That's how deep Mark's influence goes. He always positions himself as the savior while I'm the strict one. It creates this weird dynamic where Alex sees any boundary from me as abuse and anything from Mark as support. I ended up calling Mark that afternoon to try to talk like adults. I told him the online theatrics needed to stop and that Alex spreading stuff like that wasn't healthy. Instead of backing me up, Mark doubled down. He said, maybe if you didn't act like a dictator, he wouldn't feel the need to vent. I asked him how he would have handled the situation if Alex had broken a customer's windscreen on a delivery shift. Mark said, I'd cover it. That's what parents do. Protect their kids. I said, that's not protecting. That's insulating. It's not the real world. He hung up. Meanwhile, Ellie kept asking me if Alex was coming back for his usual week. She misses him, but she also quietly told me something that confirmed my gut instinct. She said that when Dad picks them up, he always jokes about me being militant or stingy, and Alex laughs along. Ellie said she doesn't think they mean it to be cruel, but it's become normal for them to talk that way about me. And honestly, that explained a lot about why Alex responded the way he did. There was also something else I hadn't fully considered until this blew up. Alex has a pattern of avoiding accountability. The broken car window wasn't the first time something like this happened, just the first time the consequences were expensive. A few examples. Last year, he dented a neighbor's mailbox while riding his bike too fast. He tried to blame poor mailbox placement until I marched him over to apologize. 2 summers ago, he scratched my car by tossing his hockey stick onto it. He called it an accident and said I was being dramatic when I asked him to help pay for the touch-up paint. 3 separate times, he's cracked a phone screen and insisted each one was just normal wear. Small things in isolation, but always the same pattern. It's not my fault. Someone else should fix it. Mark brushed off every one of those incidents. He'd say things like, boys will be boys, or you're too uptight. So, of course, Alex grew up thinking accidents automatically meant no consequences. This window was just the first time the real world told him otherwise. Anyway, 2 days after Alex left, the neighbor knocked on my door to thank me for sorting everything out. He mentioned that Alex had been visibly upset that day and asked if everything was okay. I didn't go into detail what I said. Teenagers aren't always thrilled about consequences. He actually backed me up. He said his dad made him work off a similar mistake when he was 16 and that it genuinely helped him understand responsibility. That gave me a bit of reassurance I wasn't crazy, at least not universally. A couple nights later, Mark finally dropped Alex off to grab some clothes. I tried to talk to him, not lecture. Just talk. I said, look, I know you're angry, but you can't break something on someone else's property and expect the world to cushion you. That's not how adulthood works. He wouldn't even look at me. He said, you didn't teach me anything except that you like having control. Dad said, you didn't even consider asking him. You just took my savings because you don't want me to have anything nice. That irritated me because it was exactly word for word what Mark had accused me of. I asked Alex, if I hadn't taken your savings, who did you think should pay? Me, Grandma. Ellie, he said. Dad said he would have paid. I said, exactly. Dad always says he'll pay. That's the point, he buys your way out of things. I'm trying to make sure when you're 20, you're not the guy who dodges responsibility and expects someone else to clean up the mess. He rolled his eyes, grabbed his backpack, and left with a muttered, whatever. Ellie started crying after he left. She told me she hates when her dad and brother gang up on me, and she hates that she feels stuck in the middle. I hugged her and told her it wasn't her job to fix anything. Later that night, my mom called after apparently hearing the story from my sister. Mom told me she thought I was being harsh and that making a 15-year-old lose all his savings over an accident was too extreme. But when I asked her what a more appropriate consequence would have been, she didn't have an answer. She just said, you know how sensitive he is. Everyone keeps telling me how he feels. No one seems concerned about whether he learns anything. And here's the part I haven't said until now. I didn't immediately use his savings. I held off. I sat with it for a day to see if Alex would come to me on his own and say, Mom, it was my fault. I should pay. Not even the full amount, just the acknowledgement, something. But when all he said was, what's insurance going to do? That told me everything I needed. So, yes, I authorized the transfer from his savings account into mine. I'm still the legal adult on it, and I used the money to pay the neighbor. I didn't sneak around. I didn't hide anything. I told him after the fact because I knew if I told him beforehand, he would have found a way to fight me on it. Mark keeps insisting I broke Alex's trust. But honestly, what trust? The moment things didn't go his way, he ran to the parent who always gives him the outcome he wants. If anyone's enabling him, it's not me. Now the house feels tense. Ellie tiptoes around the subject. My sister thinks I went too far. Mark is still calling me names and texts. Alex refuses to stay his scheduled week with me and says he'll only come for minimum custody requirements until he's 18. I'm frustrated, exhausted, and tired of being painted as the role for trying to raise a functioning human being rather than a kid who thinks money falls out of the sky. So Ada comments comment 1, I was with you right up until the part where you said you took the money without telling him. Doesn't matter if your name's on the account, he earned it, saved it and had a clear goal and you didn't even have the basic respect to say, hey, I think you should pay part of this. Let's talk about it. The worst part is that he might have agreed to help if you just treated him like a human being instead of a kid to be corrected. But now, he's never going to see that account the same way again. He won't see his savings as his. He'll see them as temporary, revocable privileges that can be stripped the moment you feel disrespected. You didn't teach him responsibility. You taught him not to trust you. You burned a bridge over a car window and a gaming PC. I hope it was worth it because it's going to take years to rebuild what you just trashed in one weekend. Comment 2. What happened to the other kids? You said he was kicking the football with neighborhood boys. Did any of them pitch in or is Alex the scapegoat because he happened to be the one who took the shot? Teenagers make dumb decisions. That's how they learn. But there's a massive difference between natural consequences and what looks like punitive financial gutting. You went straight from accident to clean out your bank account. You could have split the cost with him or made him work off a portion. Instead, you treated him like a grown man who totaled someone's car while driving drunk. Be real. If your daughter broke something, would you drain her savings without a conversation? And I say all this as a parent of a 16-year-old. I get it. You're trying to raise a decent human. But this wasn't justice. It was a preloaded response. You've been waiting for a reason to say, see, this is why I didn't want you working or buying that PC. Comment 3. This wasn't about teaching Alex a life lesson. This was about making sure he didn't win by getting something you've already said no to multiple times. You didn't want him to have that PC. He worked around you. He earned the money and planned it all out. And you hated that he didn't need you for it. So the first time he messes up, even by accident, you use it to wipe out his entire goal. This is power play parenting, and it always backfires. You're not guiding him. You're trying to remind him you're in control. And all he's learning is that if he wants autonomy, he has to cut you out completely. Good job making sure your ex is now the safe parent. It didn't have to be that way. But you pushed him there. Update. Right after the original situation blew up, Alex announced he was done doing 50/50 THS and said he wanted to live with his dad full-time. He came into the house with this weird confidence, like he had everything figured out and told me he needed me to sign some custody modification papers that Mark supposedly already drafted. I told him straight to his face, you're 15. You don't get to dictate custody because you're mad about consequences. I'm still your legal parent and unless a judge tells me otherwise, you're not running off to Disney Dad just because I told you no. He stormed off and said this was exactly why he didn't want to live with me anymore. I didn't budge. I'm not signing a single thing that hands Mark full control simply because he's willing to buy their silence with junk food and zero rules. Within 24 hours, he retaliated by pulling all future earnings from the shared savings account and opening a new one at Mark's bank. He didn't even tell me directly. Ellie slipped and mentioned it. I checked the old account and sure enough it was totally wiped of new deposits. I felt insulted, not because of the money, but because of the sheer audacity. He wants full independence. Fine. I froze the education fund. I control a fund I've been adding to for years with my own income. I told him plainly, I'm not funding anything else until you learn respect. And yes, I meant it. This will be the last Christmas, last birthday, and last. Mom, can you help me buy something? Moment he gets from me until he figures out that independence isn't a one-way street. Then the invoice drama started. Mark demanded to see the mechanic's paperwork since he wanted it for insurance adjustments. I dodged him for a couple days because I already knew this was coming. The repair never cost $1,800. The neighbor's mechanic ended up quoting $400 for the glass and labor. The rest of the money, yes, I used it on myself. Spa treatment, manicure, and paying back 2 small personal loans I owed friends. And before anyone loses their minds, I'm the one who's been doing 90% of the emotional labor, school coordination, doctor appointments, discipline, and day-to-day parenting for 15 years, while Mark strolls in on weekends with pizza and gets treated like a saint. I put myself last for so long that I didn't even flinch when I finally used money in an account. I legally control as a way to breathe for a second. When Mark cornered me again, demanding the invoice, I finally came clean. I told him the repair cost $400 and the rest went to personal expenses. He exploded, saying I stole from my own son and financially abused a minor. I told him he doesn't get to lecture me about responsibility while he turns our son into a spoiled adult who thinks accountability is optional. After he left in a rage, Alex found out. I didn't tell him, Mark did. Alex came over just to scream at me. He said I robbed him, that I hate him, and that I never wanted him to succeed. He even said I only had kids so I'd have someone to pay my bills. That one cut deep, but I didn't let it show. I told him, if you think a PC is more important than learning responsibility, then you're proving exactly why you're not ready for adult privileges. Then he trashed me online again. Not just vague posts, this time full paragraphs about how I'm a thief, a narcissist, and a psycho who steals money from her own kids. Screenshots got sent around the school. Ellie saw it. My sister saw it. Family friends saw it. I didn't confront him. I took screenshots and sent them straight to my lawyer. If this turns into a custody battle, I'm not walking in unprepared. But the biggest blow came from Ellie. She came home quiet. I asked if she was okay and she said, "Did the repair really cost $400? I don't lie." I told her, yes, it did. She looked disappointed. She said she needed space, packed a bag, and asked Mark to pick her up. Now Mark has both kids. I know the pattern. He gives them everything they want, lets them stay up late, eat junk, and buy whatever. Then, when real responsibilities fall on him, he acts shocked and tries to hand them back to me. But this time, I'm not picking up the pieces. I'm not playing the villain just so he can coast by as the hero. I already contacted my lawyer. I'm looking into modifying custody, not to win them back, but to protect myself. I'm done being the parent who does the hard work while Mark gets the applause. If the court wants to examine spending, behavior, or online harassment, fine. I'm documenting everything now. And before anyone asks why I don't, just apologize or try to fix the relationship. The answer is simple. I can't lose my son, but I'm also not going to be manipulated by him. And I won't lose access to accounts I set up, funded, and maintained for their futures. And no, I still don't think a gaming PC is a necessity for a 15-year-old. If anything, this situation proved I was right about how unprepared he is for adult independence. And Ellie leaving too just shows how deep Mark's influence goes. I'm not a thief. I used money I had control over to treat myself after years of doing everything alone. And I'm not backing down. I'm stuck in a mess I didn't create, trying to figure out my next step. I never thought both kids would turn on me because I wouldn't act like a doormat. But here we are. Comments. Comment 1. You're talking like the victim of some custody conspiracy when in reality, you nuked your own relationship with your son. The moment you decided his savings were your personal petty cash drawer. You didn't misjudge. You didn't slip up. You executed a whole plan. Lied about the repair cost. Took all his money. Spent most of it on yourself. Refused to show proof. Refused to apologize. Then punished him further when he reacted like any teenager would. And now you're crying about losing access to his accounts. Jesus. Listen to yourself. You sound like someone grieving the loss of an ATM, not a son. The dark part of this isn't that you used the money. It's how comfortable you were doing it and how eager you still are to frame it as discipline instead of what it was, exploitation. Your son will never trust you with $1 again. Your daughter walked out quietly because she saw it too. You didn't lose them because Mark is Disney dad. You lost them because you treated them like property. And you still think you're right. That's the scariest part. Comment 2. I've read some grim ADA posts, but this is a different level. You fabricated a wanting $800 bill to justify taking your 15-year-old's entire savings money he earned doing real work and then blew it on spa days and paying off your own debts. And you stood there smug, calling it a lesson. That wasn't a lesson. That was a mugging. You mugged your own kid and then wrapped it in a moral lecture so you could sleep at night. And now that both kids see you for who you are, you're running to a lawyer like you're the one being wronged. I hope you understand the gravity of what you did. Your kids will remember this forever. Not the window, not the argument, but the moment their mother straight up lied and stole from them and then acted offended when they reacted like humans. Cruel doesn't even cover it. This was calculated. And the worst part, you're proud of it. Comment 3. Ellie leaving quietly is the loudest part of the story. She saw what you did, saw how you justified it, and said, I don't want to live under this roof either. That's the moment you should have stopped digging and asked yourself if you're actually the victim here. But you doubled down. You're making legal threats against your own kid, weaponizing a lawyer, and freezing education funds like you're running a company, not a family. And I get it. Parenting with an undermining ex sucks. Being the bad cop 24/7 wears you down. But you don't fight that by turning into the strict parent who's also morally shady. You're not just strict anymore. You lied about a repair cost, misused funds, and then acted like the betrayed party when they found out. Honestly, this was your last chance to course correct, and you chose to throw gas on the fire. Update. I didn't think things would go this far. I knew Alex would be angry, maybe even distant for a while. But I didn't think I'd lose everything. Not like this. About a month and a half ago, I got a manila envelope shoved into my hands. Legal notice. Report of financial misconduct involving a minor. Alex filed it with Mark's help. I sat there reading words like exploitation, unauthorized use of funds, and misrepresentation of damages. I thought it was a scare tactic at first. It wasn't. The next week, I got word that the court had granted Mark temporary full custody. No hearing, no chance to explain, just an official notice telling me the kids would remain with him until the matter was fully evaluated. I wasn't even allowed unsupervised visits. One misstep, one attempt at parenting that wasn't soft and sugar-coated, and I'm suddenly not trusted to see my own children. The way Mark and the kids celebrated it. Alex posted a smug little update online about how justice works if you don't stay silent. It got thousands of likes. People, total strangers, praising him for standing up to parental abuse. Like, I'm some kind of tyrant instead of a mother who worked 2 jobs and kept the house running for 15 years, while their dad disappeared into work and new girlfriends. I tried to keep my head down and focus on my job. That didn't last. An HR manager pulled me aside a few days after the custody change. They'd received a concerned email from a parent in the community. Attached were screenshots of Alex's posts calling me abusive, a thief, and manipulative. HR didn't say I was being punished yet, but they made it clear my behavior outside of work was being monitored for impact. So now I have to walk on eggshells there too. Then came the silence. My mother and sister, who had previously defended me when Mark acted like the hero for showing up twice a month, gone. No returned calls, no replies to texts. I know they've been spending weekends with the kids. I saw a photo of Ellie with my sister at a local cafe. I don't think I've ever felt that level of betrayal from my own blood. I wasn't even halfway through processing all of this when CPS showed up at my door. Someone filed a report. Concerns regarding emotional coercion and financial control. The woman was polite but cold. She asked questions about how I handled discipline, money, and my kids' mental well-being. I answered everything truthfully, but I could tell she'd already read the story Alex spun. They say it's just protocol, but you can tell when someone walks in already seeing you as the problem. I tried reaching out to Ellie privately just to check in, just to remind her she wasn't caught in the middle. She responded once saying she was okay and just trying to stay out of the drama. A week later, I was notified she submitted her own statement requesting to remain with her father permanently. She didn't accuse me of anything. She didn't even mention the money. She just said she felt more comfortable and less anxious at Mark's. That's all it took. Quiet words from a quiet girl. And now they're both gone. I wanted to move some money around just to stay afloat. Between legal bills, missed work from meetings and appointments, and now therapy I'm supposed to attend if I want to see my kids again, I'm stretched thin. But when I tried to access Ellie's education fund, the one I've been funding since she was 5, I found it frozen. Frozen by court order, pending audit because I used Alex's money on a $400 repair and spent the rest on myself. That's enough now to cast doubt on everything I've ever done, apparently. A few nights ago, someone spray-painted thief on my front fence. Kids probably. Maybe parents egging them on. Maybe it's just the internet doing what it does best. Mob justice. One of my neighbors told me that people are talking. I've stopped walking around the block. I do groceries late at night. I don't even go to the gym anymore. And still, Alex keeps posting full rants laying out what she did, how she manipulated me, and how I thought I was safe until she stole from me. TikToks, Instagram reels. I don't even recognize this version of him. He was impulsive before. Sure. But this is something else entirely. I don't recognize him anymore. People say, don't read the comments, but how can you not when it's about you? Strangers calling me a monster and a narcissist. Saying I should be in jail. One woman said, hope you die alone with your spa gift cards, you evil hag. I kept scrolling even after I started shaking. The lawyer told me to stop going online. Stop reacting. Stop reaching out. But what else do I have? My kids are gone. My family's silent. My job's watching me. My reputation is dirt. And still, I don't think I deserve this. Yes, I made a mistake. I should have been honest about the repair cost. I should have been transparent. But using some of the money to pay off my own backlog favors to finally take care of myself for once after years of doing it all without help doesn't make me a monster. It makes me human. Burnt out. Fed up. But none of that matters now because no one sees the full picture. Just the version painted by a kid who thinks being challenged is abuse and a father who benefits every time I fall apart. And now that's all that's left of me. A story online. A scandal in the neighborhood. A mother who took one step too far and got buried in it. I didn't deserve this, but I'm stuck in it. Alone. Comments. I'll be blunt. The reason nobody is on your side anymore is because you don't actually see your kids as people. Every sentence you write circles back to you. Your exhaustion, your sacrifices, your hurt, your justifications, your narrative. Meanwhile, your kids' experiences barely register, except as inconveniences or betrayals. Alex didn't spin a story. He told the truth you didn't want aired out. Ellie didn't detach. She escaped. Your family didn't abandon you. They realized they couldn't keep co-signing the way you twist every conflict into proof that you're the only reasonable adult in the room. And the worst part, even now, Even with your life burning down around you, you still frame yourself as the misunderstood hero. Your downfall didn't come from strict parenting. Strict parents don't lose custody. Strict parents don't get CPS called on them. Strict parents don't get kids publicly posting evidence of financial manipulation. Your downfall came from your absolute refusal to accept that you crossed a line so hard and so blatantly that your children no longer felt safe with you. And instead of facing that, you're clinging to the idea that everyone else is overreacting. That's the saddest part. Not what you did, but the fact that you still can't see why it matters. Comment 2. The part you keep missing is that none of this fallout is disproportionate. It's exactly what happens when a parent lies about money, uses their kids' savings as personal currency, doubles down instead of apologizing, then tries to frame herself as the wounded hero after she gets caught. This is textbook cause and effect, not some shocking tragedy that descended from nowhere. Alex didn't just get mad, and he got documentation. He didn't make baseless accusations. He presented proof. That's why the court stepped in. That's why CPS had to investigate. That's why your accounts got frozen. These aren't punishments. These are protective measures designed for exactly this kind of parental behavior. The thing that pushed your kids over the edge wasn't the money. It was the way you refused to acknowledge reality. Even when confronted, you broke trust, then acted shocked when trust collapsed. You built a life where you only felt powerful when someone else was powerless. And now that you're the powerless one, you're calling it unfair. Comment 3. Every time I read a sentence in your post, it screams one thing: possession. You don't talk about Alex and Ellie like people. You talk about them like property, investments, projects. You say things like accounts I funded, access I gave, and structure I provided. You don't mourn losing your children. You mourn losing control of them. That's why you used his money without a second thought. That's why he didn't show the invoice. That's why you froze education funds when he left. Because in your mind, everything they have, including their emotions, is something they owe you. And that's why this all blew up in your face. Because the second they challenged your ownership, you retaliated like someone who lost a grip on their assets, not their children. Second story. A friend cast me as the female lead in his film. I told him about my previous Saw. My friend sympathized and called my sire an RC hole. So I revealed that his male lead is my sire. Basically, my friend Tom is making a student film for his thesis project. This is an extremely important project for him and will determine if he graduates. So he's already stressing out about it. I helped him write the script writing major and then he asked me if I would act in it. He said it would mean a lot to him and I've acted in a few different plays and another student film that won some awards before. So I agreed. He was seriously so thankful and thrilled and admitted he'd written the role of the female lead with me in mind. Great. I asked him early on who he had in mind for the other actors, but he listed off names that I didn't personally know. Now we're ready to start filming. Tom's gotten all of the equipment and scouted out locations we need. I just found out that he secured this guy, Brad, as the male lead of the film. Brad and I have a slight history. I went on one date with him from a dating app about 10 months ago. I didn't know he had any connection to Tom. To put it bluntly, Brad was really weird. I immediately felt like there was something off about him. He was pushy, aggressive, and did not respect the boundaries of going on a date with a stranger at all. He kept staring at me with this empty, almost angry look in his eyes. He kept putting his hand on my knee or thigh under the table. Even when I moved away, he talked about the weirdest SHT, how he had never fed a non-white girl before, wondering if our vaginas are tighter, asking me if I'm into giving oral, and talking about how he'd recently killed a deer and as a joke left its heart on his vegetarian friend's doorstep. I actually legitimately thought it was a prank of What Would You Do TV situation, but the cameras never showed up. After lunch was over, I stood up and said I had to go, and he kept trying to negate my excuse. I said I had a doctor's appointment and he kept saying that I could reschedule it and that it's easy to just skip appointments because there are no consequences. He followed me out into the parking lot and grabbed my elbow and tried to steer me towards his car so we could go on a drive. I finally hit my breaking point and turned to him and said, "Dude, I don't know if you know this, but you come off as really disrespectful and rude. Don't touch a chick if you don't know her. People are going to think you're a robust. I'm going to my appointment. Let me go." He let me go in silence and I drove off, blocked him, and moved on with my life until I just found out that Tom has got the same Brad to act in his film. Not only that, he's the lead. If the script stays the way it is, I might have to act as his love interest. I absolutely do not want this, and the very thought of even being in the same room as that guy makes me kind of nauseous. How do I tell Tom? I don't want to be that diva who gives ultimatums or refuses to work with others. And this film is extremely important to Tom's future. He's my friend and I don't want to let him down or leave him in the lurch. Finding another actress could be really difficult for him at this point, but I'm pretty sure I absolutely cannot work with that creep Brad. Is it really okay to force Tom to choose between the two of us? Or should I just bow out? TLDDR, a very close friend, asked me to act in his student film, which is also his thesis project. Found out that this creepy guy I went on a date with is the principal actor. I don't want to force my friend to choose between the two of us or begin the arduous process of finding a replacement this late in the game, but I can't work with that guy. What do I do? Comments. Comment 1. It's not forcing Tom to do anything. You simply say, "Hey, sorry, I recently found out that this creepy guy I went on a date with is the principal actor. I don't want to force you to choose between the two of us or begin the arduous process of finding a replacement this late in the game, but I can't work with that guy. What do we do?" It's not mean or rude to state your deal breakers. Working with a guy that makes you uncomfortable is a deal breaker to you working on the project. Tell Tom. It's then up to him to decide how to deal with your decision. Comment 2. I would also add, if this was just a simple personality conflict, I wouldn't be bothering you with this. He groped me repeatedly while making racist comments all through our date. I tried to leave early and he followed me out to the parking lot and tried to physically restrain me from getting to my car. Comment 3. If your friend wants to be a successful director, he needs to learn about this thing called chemistry, especially between leads. He should have arranged a meeting for the principals early enough to recast. It's great you want to be a supportive friend, but this is his problem, not yours. Edit. Rewrite the script, so that your character has to deal with a toad. Your acting will be superb and you'll win another award. Comment 4. True. You're the writer. Rewrite the story so that Brad's character dies in the first scene. Update TLDDR of that post. I was asked by a good friend to be a part of his student film thesis project, but found out to my horror that he'd hired a creepy guy to be my co-star. I didn't know if I should drop out of the film or force my friend to choose between the two of us. I know I seemed like a doormat for asking what to do, but I really didn't want to screw my friend over and also didn't know if putting up with unpleasant co-actors was just a part of being a professional. I keep seeing stories about Katherine Heigl being horrible to work with on set and never getting along with other actors, and that's why everybody hates her. Haha. Thank you to everyone who told me to talk to Tom and share my concerns. I agree that he should have tested the leads before casting them. But to be fair to him, everyone's schedules have been crazy this semester and I was out of town last week, so I think that's why he just went ahead and hired Brad. Anyway, after my post, I decided to meet Tom for dinner. He asked me how I've been, and I kind of clumsily launched into a story about this sty date I had with this guy Brad without saying it was Brad. Tom was really sympathetic and was saying things like, "Holy SHT, dude. That guy's a creep. I'm glad nothing happened to you. What an arcehole. I'm glad you're safe. I feel like I'd fight him or something if I could." I felt kind of sneaky about doing it this way, but people's suggestions to lead off with the story without saying the name seemed effective. At that point, I told Tom that the person I was actually talking about was Brad, and that when I found out, I felt really awkward and wasn't sure how to tell Tom, but I hoped he could see why I wouldn't want to work with that guy. I said I really wanted to be a part of Tom's project, but I didn't know what to do and wanted him to have all the facts. I said I'd go along with any decision he made. It kind of blew his mind that I was really talking about Brad and he took a little while to process it. I asked him how he knew Brad and he said that he was just a classmate that he'd worked on a project with earlier this year. They weren't amazing friends or anything. He seemed to brood over the info for a while and I didn't really know what to say, so we just ate in silence for a bit. Finally, Tom said matter-of-factly, "Okay, thanks for telling me. Do you know of anybody we can replace him with?" I was surprised, and he was surprised. I was surprised. He said, "That guy is a DCK. I'm not going to work with him if he treated you that way. We'll find someone else." I was so happy and grateful that I started tearing up a bit. It's not that important to me to work on Tom's film, but it was just so nice to hear that he had my back with no reservations or hesitation. He was kind of abused that I thought he would want to keep Brad over me. Haha. So, as of this morning, Tom has informed Brad that he's no longer on the project, and he's talking to a few different people he knows as replacements. We're going to do auditions to see who has good chemistry, as others have suggested. He's stressed out about finding somebody, but he said it's good that I told him now and not after we started shooting. So, thank you again to everyone for telling me to tell him ASAP. I'm not sure how I feel about how Tom did it. The firing, he just texted Brad and said something like, "Sorry, but this isn't going to work out. We don't need you for the role anymore." I'm not sure if Brad should have been informed of the reason why we didn't want to work with him. I almost feel like he should know he's a creep and that his behavior has consequences. But Tom said he was worried that Brad would blame me and that he didn't need an explanation for being let go. I see his point and he's the director, so it doesn't really matter since Brad is now gone. Yay. I've blocked Brad's number in his Facebook because I feel like he would try to contact me after this. I know he kind of went, "What the F, bro?" and asked Tom something about me, but Tom didn't answer. And he didn't really specifically say how Brad reacted when he got fired. He literally said, "Hey, don't worry about it" to me when I asked. I did notice that Brad looked at my LinkedIn sometime today, but that's about it. Thanks again, everyone, for your advice. I'm over the moon at how this turned out, and I'm looking forward to filming this summer. TLDDR by Creepy Brad. Hello, new co-star and great friend Tom. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you.